Shalom, this is Amonute Tayac of Piscataway, your friendly neighborhood Shuman, Sophia Spiritualite, the AmaruKhan Miriyam, and we're here with a discussion about Epiphany. So now that Christmas is over, the next event on the timeline that we need to be aware of is actually an event called Epiphany. Now, I had never heard of Epiphany at all. Like, we never celebrated it in the regular Protestant church. I grew up Methodist. I've never heard of it. It just so happened that I was doing some research and I came across this information. And so I wanted to bring this to everybody so you can be aware of what's going on with this. So Epiphany is every year on January the 6th. Now, in our case, that's not this Saturday, but next Saturday. Now, if you are maybe aware, maybe not aware, there was an event that occurred in this country on January the 6th. And I did not know that that was an actual holiday. Now, you may be also asking yourself, why is it that they, quote unquote, select the president? They record the votes from the states on January the 6th. Why is it that they do it on that date specifically? What do they know that you don't know that they've been doing in the background? So, of course, you know, this is what it is. So, we're going to talk about Epiphany. I have two pictures here we're going to look at, and then we're going to go read an article. So, this shows you how to actually do the chalking. Now, the way they describe it, you just take regular chalk and you write this on your door. And of course, I always see things slightly different. So it was brought to my attention that the flour mix that I make, I actually should take that and turn it into chalk so that I can write this on my door. And I'm sure we'll find other uses for this chalk throughout the year, but this is going to be the main, kind of like the main thing. So, all right. So, a custom in homes in many countries, including Austria, Czech Republic, Slovakia, Germany, Hungary, Poland, and Sweden, is to inscribe above the front doors the letters C with a cross, an M with a cross, and a B with a cross, placing a cross between each letter. This is done every year on January the 6th. Epiphany, commemorating the wise men, really women probably, being led by the star to the manger. And we're going to probably talk about that. I don't know if this video, but another video. The legendary names of the Magi were Caspar, Melchior, and Balthasar. Many people interpret the three letters as the initials of those names. In reality, or another interpretation, these letters originate from the Latin phrase Christus mansum benedictat, may Christ bless this home. This religious custom expresses the belief that the Lord remains with his people throughout the year. So here's another picture I found about this. Of course, I only show one of them being slightly negroid, and the other ones are a little lighter in complexion. And it says the same thing, so I'm not going to read it again, but I just wanted you to see this is something that a lot of people know about, and you probably don't know about because, of course, they don't want us to know any of this stuff, especially as it relates to blessing the house for the year. So now we're going to go over to the article. I attempted to open this on Pinterest and it didn't work. So this is about the Epiphany. The Feast of the Epiphany of our Lord, celebrated on January 6th, tends to connote one thing primarily among Catholics. Upon hearing the words Feast of the Epiphany, many Catholics think only of the adoration of the Magi after the birth of Jesus. While this event is indeed part of the celebration of the Epiphany, it is but one component of what is ultimately a much more extensive and important feast. What is Epiphany? According to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, the Epiphany is the manifestation of Jesus as Messiah of Israel Son of God and Savior of the world. The great feast of Epiphany celebrates the adoration of Jesus by the wise men or magi from the east, together with his baptism in the Jordan and the wedding feast at Cana in Galilee. In this way, the scope of the Epiphany proves to be much greater than simply the adoration of the Magi. The symbolism of the events involved in the feast of the Epiphany is rich and complex. Let's begin with the adoration of the Magi, or the three wise men. Regarding this event commemorated on the Feast of the Epiphany, it is helpful to again turn to the Catechism, which states, in the Magi, representatives of the neighboring pagan religions dodge the hijack. The gospel sees the first fruits of the nations who welcome the good news of salvation through the incarnation. The Magi's coming to Jerusalem in order to pay homage to the King of the Jews shows that they seek in Israel, in the Messianic light of the Star of David, the one who will be King of the nations. The adoration of the Magi is of immense importance, as it shows the possibility of redemption for everyone who seeks it. The symbolism in the adoration of the Magi has a number of layers, but the first one is relatively easy to see. The worship of Jesus by the Magi shows us that the Jesus kingship began at his birth and superseded all other earthly kinds of royalty. Though the Magi are often referred to as three kings, it is not clear that they were in fact a specific type of royalty. According to Pope Emeritus Benedict or whatever, the term Magi encompasses a number of different meanings. In terms of religion, it is thought that the Magi were members of a Persian priestly caste. They are also thought to have been philosophers, and others say they were involved in some way with supernatural or astrology. In spite of the variety of definitions one could apply to the term Magi, it is clear that these were men who held a certain amount of power and influence in the world at the time. In fact, the fact that they embarked on a journey and ultimately bowed down at the manger of Jesus shows that the kingship of Jesus supersedes all earthly power. The adoration of the Magi also shows us how it is possible for the Old Testament to be fulfilled in the New. If the Magi were indeed members of a priestly caste, it is of great significance that those priests would surrender to the priesthood of Jesus, or the priesthood of Melchizedek, as shown in the New Testament. In this way, we can see the words of Jesus born out of this event that occurred after the Nativity. After this occurrence of the Incarnation, behold, I make all things new. The baptism in the Jordan. The next event commemorated is another mystery of Jesus' public life, namely his baptism in the Jordan by John the Baptist. Although John initially hesitated to baptize his cousin among the crowd of sinners present at the time, Jesus insisted and allowed himself to be numbered among the sinners. This shows his acceptance of his mission to suffer for the sake of the rest of humanity. As he is baptized in the crowd, he anticipates the death he will suffer as a result of his incarnation. After his baptism, it is stated in the Catechism, the Spirit whom Jesus possessed in fullness from his conception comes to rest on him. Jesus will be the source of the Spirit for all mankind. At his baptism, the heavens were opened, the heavens that Adam's sin had closed, and the waters were sanctified by the descent of Jesus and the Spirit, a prelude to a new creation. As the adoration of the Magi showed the power of Jesus, the baptism in the Jordan is indicative of his vulnerability as a result of the incarnation. Jesus himself in no way needs the saving power of baptism as Christians do, yet he submits himself to it regardless. Jesus' baptism also shows us what we must do to reach heaven at the end of our lives. As said in the Catechism, the Christian must enter into this mystery of humble self-abasement and repentance. Go down into the water with Jesus in order to rise with him. Be reborn of water and the Spirit so as to become the Father's beloved Son in the Son and walk in newness of life. The wedding feast at Cana. The wedding feast at Cana is the final event we remember as we celebrate the Feast of the Epiphany. This wedding feast, at which Jesus performed the miracle of turning water into wine upon the request of his mother, proves to be much more than Jesus' first public miracle. According to Pope Francis, in an address to an audience, what occurs at the wedding feast in Cana illuminates the person of Jesus and the reason for his coming. The wedding feast mirrors the eventual wedding feast in heaven. In the Catechism, it states, at Cana, the mother of Jesus asked her son for the needs of a wedding feast. This is the sign of another feast, that of the wedding of the Lamb, where he gives his body and blood at the request of the church, his bride. Additionally, the miracle at Cana gives us insight into the role of Mary as mother. It is at the hour of the new covenant, at the foot of the cross, that Mary is heard as the woman, the new Eve, the true mother of all the living. The person of Mary, as shown in the scripture, fades into the background over time. She is present in scripture throughout the time of the Annunciation, Nativity, Jesus' early life, but is rarely mentioned in Jesus' later years. Her presence at this wedding feast evokes her humble importance as Mary, mother of the church. Her humility is indicated in her request of a favor from her son, and the importance shown by Jesus' affirmation of it. All right. This is the last paragraph. Epiphany traditions now. As we have seen, the importance of Epiphany is deeply theological and in many ways challenging to interpret. We're going to break this down, y'all. How can we make a feast of the Epiphany one that we can integrate into our lives? One way is to have a traditional Epiphany house blessing. This blessing remembers primarily the adoration of the Magi, but can be a helpful introduction to the other events commemorated on the Feast of the Epiphany. In the house blessing, after several specific prayers, each room of the house is blessed with holy water, and the initials of the Magi together with the year are inscribed over the doorway with chalk. For example, next year's blessing will read 20 plus C plus M plus B plus 24. In addition to the initials representing the names of Caspar, Melchior, Balthasar, some say the initials stand for Christus Mansionem Benedict, or Christ bless his house. This blessing is a simple opportunity to pray together and remember the mysteries of Jesus' life as we celebrate the Epiphany. All right, let's go back. Okay. So let's talk about this Magi situation for a minute. All right. Hopefully it's not going to be too long. Okay. In order to rectify the fact that we have so many calendars and all of them have relevant, important dates on them, it is most important to understand what this event, the Magi, would look like in physical reality. So, on Repo Man's timeline, Jesus was, Mary was inseminated on Christmas, and he was born in September the 26th or something like that. Okay? In Orthodox teachings, he was born on Christmas, meaning the first of the year, of our year in March. That was when John the Baptist Jesus was conceived around the start of our physical year in March. He was 6 months older, so you're talking about in September of the previous year, that's when John the Baptist was conceived. Then 6 months later, Mary conceived, and then John the Baptist was born, and then 3 months later after that, it started the next season, and then Jesus was born 3 months after that. So you can see how just following them two birth back to back, you get a whole year of a timeline. But we have something else that follows this pattern. And that would be the time period of the new moon to the full moon. It's about 6 months. Because a new moon generally occurs on the opposite side of the full moon. That's not always, but generally you have the new moon, then the full moon, then the new moon, and it takes a whole year to cycle through the whole thing. The same thing with these children's birth. You know, at start of fall, you have John the Baptist being inseminated. Then you have the start of winter, that's nothing. Then the start of spring, you have Jesus being inseminated. Then the start of summer, you have John the Baptist being born. And then the start of fall, you have Jesus being born. So it follows the same sort of pattern. But the thing I really want to give people to think about is both of these timelines can be correct. It depends on what you're talking about. So what I think is going on is I do believe the Most High gave the Watchers the celestial timeline, but he gave the Orthodox the physical timeline. That's actually, they cross, meaning you need both timelines. That's why there's crosses everywhere. You have to cross the two timelines. How do you cross the timelines in this case? If you think about Christmas, especially this Christmas, the day after Christmas, there was a new moon. A full moon, I'm sorry. The day after Christmas, there was a full moon. So if Mary got pregnant on Christmas Day, that means that thing would be done by the next day, the day after Christmas, which would be the 26th. You have a full moon. A star appeared in the sky, and the three magi noticed that this star appeared in the sky because they were obviously astrologers and watching the sky. When the physical star appeared in the sky, they followed the star from wherever it was that they were. This is a whole nother issue. We'll have to do another video on this. But they followed the star from wherever they were to where Jesus was, or would be born, which is why they showed up at the same time Jesus was born. Now, there are many scenarios in which it would take you 9 months to walk somewhere, to get somewhere by foot. Especially if you're going from like the East Coast to the West Coast, if you have to go through the Appalachians, if, just traveling across this country, not necessarily up and down the East Coast or the West Coast, but going across. So if Bethlehem is in the DC metro area, then they're coming from Yehuda, Utah. That's going to take you 9 months to get there. You know what I mean? Or if they're coming from Bethlehem, they're coming from quote unquote Persia, and that's in Baltimore, or not Baltimore, but Boston, and they got to go to Arizona. That's going to take you 9 months. No matter which way you cross across this country, it could take you 9 months to get from East Coast to the West Coast, or the West Coast to the East Coast. Especially if you're starting in the East Coast when it's cold, you got to travel towards the West Coast, or you're starting in the West Coast when it's cooler, and then you get into the cold of the East Coast, and then you got to get through the mountains and stuff. Absolutely could take 9 months. I'm not talking about over in that place. I'm talking about here. Somebody else who wants to keep addressing these biblical events as if they're over there, and that land mass is allowed to do so, but I'm not going to talk about it like that anymore, because it doesn't make any sense to me. So yes, that is how to say that both timelines are correct, because if she got pregnant on Christmas Eve, the star appeared in the sky. Now, I have also heard that people consider someone being born when they did, when the child was inseminated. I've heard that explanation too, but this explanation makes more sense to me, because the people who saw it first was the Magi, or the wise men, or whatever. These individuals saw it first. So they could have absolutely seen it in the sky first, and then it happened in physical reality. This makes me think that when we ask for things that have to manifest from the physical reality, from the celestial hierarchy into the physical reality, it probably takes about 9 months. The reason why I say it like that, or 10 months, is really 40 weeks, between 36 and 40 weeks. The reason why I say that is because we have Jesus as the example. It took 36 to 40 weeks from the time when Mary was inseminated to the time when Jesus was born. No matter what timeline, it took 36 to 40 weeks. And so when we're working through the celestial hierarchy, that helps us to understand why we ask for something at the new moon, we ask for something to be brought in, right? At the full moon, while before the total gestation period is over, we ask for any blockages to be removed, right? So we're talking about 5.5 months in, we ask for the blockages to be removed, and then by the time we get to the 40 weeks, the 36 weeks, between that period and 52 weeks, we should see everything start to show up. So this explains why our moon experiments work, because they follow the timeline of Jesus. And so it's really important to understand that, because it's one thing to do magic and you don't know how it works and things just, oh wow, this is amazing. It's a totally different thing to engage in experiments, tracking the data and keeping track of and understanding that it's going to show up because we are following in the template that's laid out in the Bible. We're not making this up. It just so happens that this is the template that it comes from. Now, could it come from some other template? Absolutely. Anybody, depending on what book they're versed in, could find this explanation somewhere in their text. So I'm not taking this from nobody else saying, oh, this is it. This is the only place you can find that. I'm not saying that, because I don't think it's necessary. All that matters is that if you are a person who is believing in the Bible, this is an explanation that will help you understand why this works. It's specifically with the moons. Specifically with the moons. The new moon and the full moon. The thing that we're working on. Okay? So that's the Magi thing. Alright. The next thing is the baptism in the Jordan. This is interesting to me because I have been again thinking about baptism. And I know that I had said that I was not going to be baptized. But I heard the priest say something that made me think that I might need to reconsider that position. Because the priest said a few weeks ago, maybe last week, I guess, he was talking about how if the reason we go to church is not for ourselves. We go to church as a sacrifice to pray for others, because it's not really helpful to go for ourselves, because we are, by engaging in the church, we are covered. It's the ones who are outside of the church that need to be prayed for. That made me think maybe I should look at this baptism thing again, paired with the fact that in my dream, I was trying to charge them like $10,000 to baptize one person. But that's that's selling my birthright. But if I willingly give myself as a part of a larger process or a larger plan that will help bring peace amongst our people, that's not the same as me, signing over my birthright to my children. If I go into a baptism being the one who is able to execute or settle the contracts, the spiritual contracts or otherwise, it is not the same as someone who enters into the contract as a child, quote unquote, or as a quote unquote slave, to better explain this. If you are the one in charge and you willingly submit to an organization or to a group or to whatever, so that you can lend your energy to help influence that group, that's totally different than finding a group, becoming enamored, giving everything away, and not even being the one who is able to sign that deal. That is siphoning off your energy. And this whole thing about Jesus being baptized, that's what he did. He did not need to be baptized by John or nobody else. If he needed to be baptized, he could call down a legion of angels to baptize him. He didn't need John to baptize him. But what did he do? He got his cousin, and he had his cousin baptize him amongst the sinners. Now, I've already said that when I do get baptized, I'm going to get baptized by an individual I feel like is John the Baptist to me. Then I would think about going into the church and letting him do it, but not until my personal John the Baptist, the one I have identified as that individual in my life, does that for me first. And then I can go in there and say, okay, as a person who has the status of a quote unquote citizen of heaven, or whatever, as a person who has the status of being in charge of my own destiny, I will lend my energy to the church because I personally believe in the church. Now, this is not for everybody, because there's people who haven't been into the Orthodox Church that probably don't believe in it. They don't believe what I'm saying, they think I've gone off track or I'm overzealous or whatever, but you haven't been in the church, so you have no idea where I'm getting my information from except to hear me talk about it. So this is why I say people have to do what's best for them, and you should always try to get your own experience and not listen to just what people say on the internet. Because I'm telling you, like, over the last, since the end half of this Neptune retrograde, I was not even ever going to go back to church again. Listening to those people, the ortho bros on the internet, has totally turned me off from orthodoxy in general. Honestly, I did not go to church because listening to them talk about church the way that they did was horrific, and I didn't like it. But it's not about them. It's about saving. It's about holding the vibration first of all, it's about helping our brother. That's just about helping our brother. That's first of all. First, helping our brother and our heavenly family, first of all. Second of all, is about holding a vibration so that those people who are lost in this matrix world can have a path to get back home, to get back to themselves. This is about a journey to self. This is not about me, how I feel about the ortho bros, what kind of stuff they're doing, what they're talking about, and all that trash. It's not about that. It's about me holding a vibration high enough for my brothers and sisters to be able to ping their way back up or back into their inner self. That's what it is. That's what it means to me. And so we might go back. I might go back and forth some more, but that's just where I'm thinking about it. Okay, so this wedding feast. This is another one that is really, really interesting. Now, we'll probably have to do some kind of analysis of at some point, because I've heard a lot of different explanations of this feast. And the fact that the Epiphany is tied in with this feast at Cana is very interesting. It's almost like when you mark your door, you're marking yourself as a member, as a person who is to participate in this feast. And so I think that just for that alone, without any other explanation, it would behoove us to participate in this, because it's better to be counted as a member of the feast than to be, guess what the other positions are. Let's look at the other stories about weddings Jesus told. Okay, he told the story about the bridegroom who went out, and the 5 women who didn't have their lamps oil, and the 5 women who did. Then there's, oh man, that's the only one I can think of right now. But just look at that. Do you want to be any of those 10? Like, which would you rather be? A guest at the feast, or one of the 10 the 10 maidens waiting outside for the bridegroom? Well, I'd much rather be inside than be on the outside, hoping that I can stay awake long enough to get into the party. That don't make no sense to me. So it is my suggestion, my belief, that we want to make sure that we are counted among the guests at the party, at the wedding banquet, as opposed to be counted, be hoping that we can get in. Do we have enough oil? Do we not have enough oil? You know, all that kind of, problems that come up when you're not just a guest at the feast. So to me, the reason why it is associated with it is so that it marks you as a guest of the feast. All right, so now let's go back over to the picture. So now they just do this with regular chalk. So of course you can use regular chalk, but let me tell you what chalk is made up of. Chalk is made up of flour and water, essentially. And so I actually found this information first, and then I found that article about the French protection spell. So imagine how powerful it would be to write this on your door with chalk that's made of something that the gods, the gods, the what's your name? What them things called? The charms or the deceased cannot interfere with. Now, which do you trust more? Your regular chalk that you get from the store, or the chalk that's charged with something that will protect you from someone interfering with your position? I'm going to go with the one that keeps you from your position from being interfered with all day, every day. And the fact that these are magicians, and there's 3 of them, and there's also 3 flowers in the blend. So these things can't be made up. Like, you can't just, oh, that's a coinky dink. How many coinky dinks do you need to see, oh no, we just didn't know that's how people did stuff? And they don't tell you, you got to dig up, 100-year-old French grimoire articles in order to find out how people were really protecting themselves. Nobody will tell you any of this. Again, this is not just a corner piece. This is a whole chunk of the puzzle being put together. So this starts our quote-unquote year, our Gregorian year. So if in December you did the thing with the broom to sweep out all the bad energy, then a month later you do what? You seal it off. I know, sometimes, I feel like I'm reaching, but, this don't feel like a reach to me. Like, if you went and got the cinnamon broom and swept your house and did all the stuff with the solstice, right? Or whatever. I can't remember what day I said to do it. If you did all that stuff, right, why wouldn't you come back on the 6th of January, within a month, and do this thing right here to seal all of that energy out? You've already cleared it out. Just keep it from hitting you for the rest of the year. It's an easy step. So I am going to make some chalk. I have not made the chalk yet, but if you are interested, please send me an email. It is going to be a product on my website, but if you want to have it for the 6th, I want to get it to the people that listen and participate and stuff like that. Because next year, 2025, it's going to be a lot of, I don't say it like that. It's going to be a lot of dick riding, okay? There's no way to get around it. We are going to be the only people thriving. Not the only ones. We're going to be some of the main ones thriving. And there's going to be a lot of people who are unable to get ahead. And I want my people to be ahead of the curve, as always. So if you're interested, send me an email. It's in my it's in my about me page. I'll start adding it to my videos too, so you can find it easier. But if you don't want to get it from me, you just want to use regular chalk, whatever, it doesn't matter. The intention is what matters. So set your intention, get your chalk, pray over it, throw some holy water over it, whatever you have, set it with your, on your altar so it can be prepared, set apart, whatever. And on January 6th, go through, mark your doors. Now, let me talk about the infamous January 6th, because many of you know I was into that stuff. And so I watched that event very closely. And I don't think a lot of people know that the only person who actually died on that day from the events that occurred was she was mixed. But she was a black woman. She was mixed. She was black. It was a black woman. She died on the front steps. Now, when that happened, now I'm watching this, I'm watching it because I had multiple screens. I'm really tied into what's going on. I'm watching this and I'm like, well, how is it that of all those white people out there, hundreds of thousands of white people showed up, the only person who died was black? And it was not a lot of black people out there. I know some of the other blackies that were, not blackies, that's so mean. Some of the other black people that were out there are not ones that I particularly care for, due to my personal interactions with them. So I'm not going to go into all of that. But this particular woman, her name was Roseanne Boylan. She was the only person to actually die on J6. And she was out on the front steps of the Capitol. And I had said at the time, that is the only person that died. That is a sacrifice. And I kept thinking, but what is January 6th? Like, what day is this that you would do a sacrifice on this day? Like, what is it? I've been asking this question since 2020. I just got the answer when I found this information. It is because of this. Instead of marking the doors with this right here, what you're supposed to do, the chalking of the doors and, marking it with a peace blessing, which protection, these satanic individuals did a whole satanic ritual. They turned something, because the American people are so stupid and mindless, they turned something that was supposed to be about protecting the integrity of the election, whether you agree or disagree is not the point. This is what these people believe they were doing. They did not believe they were doing an insurrection. And you've never talked to any of them, so don't tell me that that's what they believe. No. I've spent hundreds of hours talking to these people. They did not believe that's what was happening. Why would there be only person killed a black woman? Why did they deliberately make sure to shed the blood of a black woman? Then they tried to trick you and tell you that other lady died, the white lady, she never existed. It's not a real person. The only person who died is the black lady, Roseanne Boylan. So why would they do a ritual like that on that day? Why would they, this is what I want you to really think about. Why would they need a ritual in which, now keep in mind, The Wiz, Color Purple, Dream, I didn't talk about the Dreamgirls thing yet. I mentioned it, but let me mention it again. When Dreamgirls came out in 2006, the end of 2006, Christmas Day, actually, I think it came out in 2006. Okay, Christmas Day, 2006, Dreamgirls comes out. January the 4th, Nancy Pelosi is sworn in as the first female Speaker of the House. Never happened before. Now, whose energy do you think they use? Did they use somebody else who put out a movie on Christmas? No. They used our energy from that Dreamgirls movie to put that white lady in office. This is what they do. Like, now there's a clear pattern between what movie comes out on Christmas Day and what their intention is for the rest of the year. So you have Color Purple, Dreamgirls, The Wiz. They put these movies out. They use the energy from our women to do their rituals. Now, if it was a legitimate election, and if Bite Me, I shouldn't call him that, Sleepy Joe, and the other lady, the other white lady, ski woo, but sweet ski woo white lady, ski woo white lady. Okay, if they won legitimately, why did they need to sacrifice the blood of a black woman to solidify their entry into that house? I just want y'all to think about that. Now, I could give you way more information about, everything I saw. I personally witnessed things with my own eyes, okay, in that election. It's not important. What's important is we have to protect ourselves. We've been given the ways to protect us. Now, that poor woman, Lord have mercy on her soul, she had no protection. And that's one thing I have been complaining about to my spiritual team all year. We have to have some protection. We cannot be out here doing this stuff with no protection. They have given us protection on top of protection on top of protection. Stuff that they're doing, stuff that we have to do. But the thing that we have to do now moving forward is do not be afraid to speak out when you see things that are wrong. Right is right and wrong is wrong. One. The other thing is you have to take your personal protection seriously, meaning personal protection is not, oh, I'm not going to go on the internet. I'm not going to do this. I don't want to give my personal information. The NSA got everything about you. They know where you live. They know what you eat. They know what you like. They know what you spend. No matter how you spend your money, they got a whole dossier on you. And besides that, they got your name, your birth date, your location, the time. They got charts on you. They got analysts running your stuff through the system, trying to figure out what they can get away with. There's nothing secret about you anywhere in this universe, because when Jesus was born, a star appeared in the sky and 3 men was looking at the part of the sky where they knew the star was going to appear, and a star showed up. You think that only happened for Jesus? Oh, you think that was just a one and done, right? You think that doesn't happen for us, and that they know that. It's in the book. Of course they know it. So, but we have to take our protection from being influenced by these different entities seriously. That is what I'm talking about. So, like I said, my stuff is going to be out soon. I started talking about it. I'm taking, people who are interested. Like I said, send me an email. I will get to you. And I'm going to make this chalk, probably not tonight, but in the morning, so it has time to dry so I can send some out. I've never made chalk before. I have no idea what this works, doesn't work. I don't know. This is all brand new. I had no idea I was going into this business right here at all. I never could have imagined that. I never could have imagined that this right here is going on. Every skill that I've ever picked up in my whole life, I'm using it. It's unimaginable, to be honest. I'm not even sure how to put into words what this is like. So instead of going on and on about that, I'll just say this, and I'll say it like this. This is very simple. You write the letters on your doors with chalk. You do it in every room. You pray. You put your holy water on your house. You protect your house. I don't know why this is so important right now, but just like with the cinnamon broom, I got the message, and this has been a multi-level message. I had to get this message, and then I had to go look for what was in chalk. And I was like, well, what is in chalk? So, why is it the chalk that does the protecting? And I said, no, it's something else to that. And then, of course, I found the information about the flour and all of that. So, this is stuff that our people always did. That's the most important thing I want you to take out of this. This is what our people always did. We always had a way to protect ourselves. That's why the only way they could have done this to us is to get us to lie to ourselves about who we are and what our people have always done, how we have always lived. And they've done a really good job at that. And it doesn't take a lot to take that back. It really, really doesn't. And so I'm encouraging people, let's take this back. let us protect ourselves in the process, and let's move forward into the destiny that belongs to us. It is ours for the taking, but it doesn't come without doing our part. Our spirit team is going to back us up. We just have to put some chalk on the door. We just have to buy a cinnamon broom, sweep out all the bad energy. It's not stuff that you have to just burn some ancestor money. You have to just light your candles. It's not a lot of stuff, but it means a lot in the spirit realm. And that's, I think, one of the problems is that because we have been overstimulated, we are not conscious of how important these small things are that we do in the spirit realm. When you burn ancestor money, that's like literally giving your ancestors or whoever an ability to cross over. Like, it's small to us here because we don't see the spirit realm like that. But to an ancestor who has been waiting to cross over on that ship to their next life for hundreds, thousands of years, it means a lot to them. You know, it means a lot to them. So that's just some things to think about. I thought I would put that out there. So got some more videos coming up, obviously, and I just hope everyone kind of understands what I'm saying. If you know people who will be interested in this kind of content, please feel free to share the channel. You can like, you can comment, you can subscribe, you can unlike, you can uncomment, you can unsubscribe. I think that my channel should be bigger so we can help more people. And that's what I'm asking for, expecting, hoping to do in 2024. So shalom, everyone, and we'll see you in the next video.